everyone, this is Emily here to talk about my crafts again. I am piloting a new camera today which seems to give me better picture but potentially worse sound, so I'm still recording my sound with my other program just in case I need to put it over this because I don't really fancy redoing the whole video if it's just the sound that's wacky. So anyway, if you are seeing this, then apparently it gave me at least as good quality of video as the other camera. And if you're not seeing it, then I had to redo it, and I'm probably really annoyed about that. So anyway, if you are new, welcome. I am so glad that you are here and interested in hearing what I have to talk about. If you are returning, I am glad that you are returning, and I hope that you are interested in what we're talking about today, which is going to be primarily knitting with a little bit of stitching. And I'm also in like a new spot with a wiggly chair, and I'm going to try really hard not to be like wee the whole time, because I would totally do that. So, alright, let's start talking about stitching. I have not been doing a lot of stitching, but I think I may have a partial solution to that. What I have been working on is the, okay, the camera's in a different position on this camera. So this is the Hardanger Round in Circles Year-Long Stitch Along by Mabel Figworthy. And so this was January's block, February's, and I just finished March's today. You can see there's like little sequins on there and they really catch the light in a nice way. I really like that. This is probably my second favorite pattern. The January pattern is still my favorite of all of them, but, and this is my so far least favorite, and this is my second favorite. So, anyway, that was really cool. I actually really like the wrapping that I've got here. Like I don't know, I like the way that the threads look when you first pulled them out, and I don't really love them wrapped, but I like this wrapping here between on these little double bars here that's wrapped with thread. So, and we've got beads on this one and sequins, and I am doing this on a white 22 count Hardanger fabric with various weights of white DMC pearl cotton. So this is like pearl cotton number 8 on the border and on the wrapping in this, and then number 5 here. I think that these are number 8. And then I've got a little bit of Petite Treasure braids in silver. The only spot that you can see that is I use that to attach the sequins. So you can't really see it a lot, but it really helps make them sparkle, I think. And then silver Mill Hill beads and just silver sequins that I bought off of eBay from someone who sells them, I think, for like attaching to dresses and stuff. But look, it's sparkly. So I like this one. And like I mentioned, I haven't been doing a lot of stitching, and I think that a large part of that reason is because I only have one of these frames that I really like. I also have a scroll bar frame, which I quite like, but I've got my, what is it called? It's the Blackwork Journey Save the Stitches. Save the Stitches is what it's called. It's a big old blackwork piece that I'm working on, and it's on that, and I don't want to take it off and then put it back on because it's kind of a pain to get it into the scroll bars really well. Whereas this like Q-snap type thing is pretty easy to get on and off. By the way, check out my nails. I am super pleased that I managed to do that. If you're into nails, it's the Sinful Colors Black on Black is the background, and I stamped it with Maybelline Bold Gold using one of the stamping plates from it's the Bundle Monster, I want to say Secret Garden collection. It was just a little random flower that they had on one of those plates. So, I like my nails. They're cool. Back to stitching. So I've only got one of these like Q-snap type frames. I want to say this is about a 17 by 11 frame, and I got it at like a secondhand thrift store for like craft supplies store that's local to me. Pretty cheap, pretty nice. And I really, really like it. And there's been times when I've left a piece in there for almost a month and I've taken it out and there's been no damage to it, which I like a lot better than the hoop that I've been using previously. Ooh, and I'm wiggling my thing. I literally have my phone in my cross-stitch stand because that's the only thing I could find that would lift it high enough that I could get the video where I wanted it to be. So I'm trying not to bump it with my feet. Where was I? Yes, I've only got one of these. And so I had this kind of theoretical rotation that I was doing where I would do like a week on this project, a week on the next project, a week on the next project. But I was finding sometimes I wasn't in the mood to work on what was my project for that week, or I was in the mood to work on like more than one project and like alternating day to day kind of a thing. But I didn't really want to keep putting them out and putting them in because I think there's more potential for damage when you take the pieces out and put them back in than there is just leaving them on these frames. Plus, it's not hard, it's not terribly time consuming to put them in these frames, but it does add a little bit of time, and if I'm like, I've got, 15 minutes to stitch, I'd rather not be spending, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes of it getting pieces in and out of this frame. So I decided to look and see if the place that I got in this frame from had another one, and they did, and it was like a big, like 17 by 17 one, which I wasn't terribly thrilled about because even with this, when I have it in front of me on my stand, it's kind of like this, it's not super comfortable for me to work at the very upper edge of it for a long period of time because I have to like reach away from myself. And so I didn't really want something that was bigger in this dimension than this one is. And obviously the other one was a square of about the largest dimension of this, so it was that big, but square. So, I ended up also getting, I just bought like from Amazon an 8 by 8 inch Q-snap because they should go together, right? And what I did was I made myself 2 of these. So this is the bar from the, okay. The way these things go together, if you've never played with one, is they've got, let me pull them apart. So they've got these long plastic pieces, and then they've got these little, basically male end connectors. And so you'll put the connector in here, and then you'll put the connector in here, and there you've got part of a frame. Now, the 17 by 17 or whatever it was came with connectors of this size, and the 8 by 8 came with connectors this size. So, what I did, since they work with each other, is I took the long piece from the 17 by 17 and I put a small connector on it. And I took the long piece from the 8 by 8 and I put a large. Great. Okay. And I put a large connector on it. And so I made myself this, I haven't measured it, but I'm estimating like 15 by 9, maybe, sort of a thing. And so the only downside is that these are the 8 by 8 little snaps, and they're obviously short, and, oh crud, oh here it is. These are the 17 by 17 snaps, and they're long. They're also loose. I can tell that whoever had the 17 by 17 was using it. But this is about the exact size that I want. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting that Hardanger Maple Figworthy Hardanger piece on one of these, using the bigger 11 by 17 because these are like an inch or 2 smaller all around. Using the bigger one for my 4 Heavenly Beasts, which is my Heaven and Earth designs, and I'm doing it on an 18 count fabric, so it's really big, and so having a bigger frame would be beneficial because I can get to more of it. So I was going to permanently put the Heaven and Earth design on my biggest frame because that's my favorite of my pieces. It's my piece that I'm most likely to want to get to. And then for the duration of this year, I'll have my monthly stitch along on one of these. And then, and obviously my Blackwork Journey is still going to be on the scroll bars. And then I'll have one of these, and I've got 2 dimensions kits. There's a Morning Flight, which is like a eagle flying through a woods in the morning snowy scene. And then I've got Oriental Butterfly, which is like this butterfly on kind of a Chinese calligraphy type background. And I'm going to put one of those 2 on this, and so that way I will have the opportunity. I've only got one stand, although my scroll frame has got like a lap stand. So I've got a lap stand with the scroll frame, and then one stand that'll hold all of these 3 Q-snaps. And so I can much more easily switch. If on a certain day I want to work on Morning Flight, I can do that. If the next day this comes out and I want to work on it, I can do that. And I think that's going to be a really good way for me to get more stitching done, because there'll be a lot more flexibility for me to do what I'm in the mood for. Sorry about the clang if you caught that. That was a stand falling over. Now the only thing that I'm going to have to also be careful of is some of my accessories. So I hold my fabric in place with this hair clamp, and I've only got one of those, and I don't really want to go buy more. So I think what I may end up doing is actually making grime guards, which I've never made because I've never really felt the need for. But if I'm going to leave my pieces in these stacking up, I should probably have something around the edges to keep them from getting like dust or, you know, dust from the ground blown onto them. And B, that will give me something that I can tuck my excess fabric up into. A grime guard is basically, it's a strip of fabric with elastic, and it goes all the way around here. So it'll hold the extra fabric up, and it'll also keep any dirt from, you know, that's along the edges from getting onto the fabric. So that is my plan. I'm pretty sure I have 2 of these needle minders that are basically just buttons that I've glued magnets onto. I may just need to go get some more buttons and make a couple more. That's not a big deal. When I park, I end up using a lot of needles at a time because I'm working with, I keep my needles threaded. So I may end up needing to buy more needles. I bought like a pack of 50, and I've bent a few because I like the 28 petites, and those are pretty delicate. So ultimately I may end up needing to go buy a couple more, well, not a couple more, but another 50 pack off of eBay of needles to make this really work. And I did get a request to do a video on my parking, so next time I'm working on my Heaven and Earth design, because that's the one that I'm most parking on, I'll go ahead and be sure to film that. So, that is my stitching, and that is my plans for my stitching. Now, I have been doing a lot of knitting, and I've only been doing it on like 3 projects. Okay, 4. I finished the, the Regrowth Shawl by Toby McNutt that I was knitting in Knit Picks palette in the grass colorway for a friend, and I gave that to her a couple weeks ago now, so I will insert a picture of her wearing it. She is super, super pleased with it. I am very pleased with it. It was really cool. Now, I did get a request also to show how I blocked something that big, and unfortunately I was trying to film myself blocking it so that way you could see what I was doing, and my camera cut out partway through. So I'm going to go, when I'm editing this video, I'm going to see how much video of that I have, and I'm probably going to just go ahead and put that into this video here. Okay, so this is the shawl in a tub with some lukewarm, above room temperature, but not quite bath-worthy water, and a squirt of plain, just plain unscented laundry soap. I can't be bothered to buy wool wash when unscented laundry soap has always worked great for me. So that's in there. There's also 2 swatches for socks in there because I'm going to go ahead and hand wash, dry flat those while I'm at it. And it's going to sit in there for, I don't know, at least 15 minutes, up to an hour if I forget about it, and soak in the water. And then when I get done soaking that, I will rinse it carefully so as not to felt it, but really just keeping the same water temperature and being gentle with it should work. And then once I've rinsed it, I will show you what I do next. I've got these, I picked them up at Five Below, which is like a slightly higher end dollar store. They're 16 by 16 inches, and they were intended to be like padding at the bottom of a home gym, but they were like $2 a piece or something, which made them cheaper than the commercial blocking pads, so I was going to use that to block on. I also have a old yoga mat if I don't have enough of those, and I've got a sheet to put over those because I don't know how they're going to respond to water because that's not actually what they're used for. I also somewhere have a box of pins for pinning it out. These are not the like fancy rust-proof pins that you're supposed to use, but I've blocked with them before successfully. My apartment is really dry and I put a fan over it so they don't really stay wet very long. Alright, so here it is. Bear in mind that that's a queen-sized sheet that it's sitting on. And I noticed that my camera that I was filming the actual penning out process died at some point, but I'm not actually sure when because I was penning. So just to give you a quick rundown, I kind of spread it out, did an initial pen, spread it out some more, penned it again, spread it out some more, penned it again. Basically, I started kind of in the middle bottom, and then I worked around. And I kept doing that, and then once it kind of started to be about right, I stood and I looked at it from the middle, and I was like, okay, this side needs to go out further. So I did that, and then I went and looked at it, stood and looked at it from the middle. I was like, okay, that side needs to go out further. And I did that. I think I pinned it out about 5 times, and then I was pretty happy with it, but the points weren't that even. So I measured, and I decided that I liked the points best when they were about 4 3/4 inches apart. So I sat there with the tape measure, and I pinned it out for probably a 6th time. I don't have blocking wires. I really kind of need to spring for blocking wires.
And then I forgot to record anything about taking it off of the mats. Basically, once it was fully dry, which took longer than I wanted it to, so like the next day, I took all the pins out and it's held its shape beautifully, and I was able to fold it up and give it right to my friend. And then in case you were curious about blocking, what blocking is, why you would do it, I realize I'm putting this bit on the wrong end of that little clip, but oh well. Basically, it's when you take any finished knit piece from something you kind of crumpled up and wrinkly, and you spread it all out, and you make it so that all the stitches are even, and you can see all the holes in the lace really clearly. If you're familiar with cross-stitching, think of it as like the ironing stage. Your piece is finished, but it's all kind of wrinkly from just the way it was made, and so when you block it, you spread it out and make it look all neat and finished.
Alright, so once that was done, I knew that I wanted to cast on something, which was this. Now, this is my project bag that I made, and I cast on some socks. I'm done with my first sock, and I am about 2/3 of the way done turning the heel on the second sock. Oh, and there's like tangles happening here. Hang on. One moment. Alright. So I'm going from a straight tube to a tube with a heel in it. Yay! Alright, so talking about pattern and yarn. So first of all, this is the Knit Picks Felice yarn in the Baker Street colorway, which I really like. The people have complained that these two grays are very similar to each other, and it's hard to tell them apart, and they are. It's on the camera they're showing up as being a little bit more different than they are in real life. So that's a little bit unfortunate. And people have also commented that on the lighter colors of Felice, there's often, see these little dark spots? That is some dye from like this one that crept into this color. And on this first sock, I was like, oh, that's okay. It just kind of looks a little bit speckledy. And then on the second sock, where is it? Oh, and you'll notice there's been aggressively mismatched. I made no effort to match them at all because I knew that I just was like, we're just going to go with whatever and I'm going to like it, which I do. But on this, so yeah, on this one, they've got these whole stripes of dye that's been transferred. So I'm not real pleased with that because that doesn't look just like speckledy. That looks like a mistake. And furthermore, I was knitting, okay, let me find the extra end. So, okay, I was knitting this brown stripe, right? And all of a sudden, I got this yarn. This yarn is this yarn. See? So as I was knitting this, all of a sudden, for quite a distance, as you can see, this is doubled. For quite a distance, I had the totally wrong color in it, which I am really not terribly pleased about. Now, what I ended up doing was I just pulled it to the inside, and I tied a really loose knot so that way I wouldn't accidentally like pull it out as I was working on it. And I'm just going to weave those ends in and it'll be okay. Like, it wasn't so much that it affected my stripe pattern, but I'm not real pleased. Like, the yarn is so soft, and I love that. And it feels like it's going to be really nice on my feet, but I'm not loving the dye job, sadly. So, as far as patterning goes, I am knitting these on US size 1 needles. I want to say, because there's like a 1 and a 1.5, and I want to say that I have the actual 1, so the smallest millimeter, but I don't remember what that corresponds to. Like, maybe it's like 2.25 versus 2.5 or 2.0 versus 2.25. I don't remember what it is, but it's the smaller one. So I'm getting 9.5 stitches per inch, and I'm doing this deliberately because on my previous one where I got 8.5 stitches per inch, which was what the pattern called for, I think, I could feel the purl bumps on the inside, and I didn't really like that, so I decided to go for a tighter gauge, which I quite like. The toe is, allow me to check my pattern. This is the seam-free rounded toe for toe-up socks, a recipe by Lynn Ashton. And I like the roundedness of it. This one it's not quite as, this one is very clear that it's a nice rounded toe, and it seems to fit my toes pretty well. The one thing I don't love is she has you do, like, make one increases a little ways in from this seam, and I can really feel those. So I may just experiment with using a different increase, but this same increase pattern. And then my heels are the Fish Lips Kiss heel, which is by, I want to say Socks, yeah, Sock Therapist. There's Sock Therapist and Sock Bug, and I can't keep them straight because I've done patterns by both. So Sock Therapist. This Fish Lips Kiss heel, which I am quite liking. I haven't, like, worn this sock because obviously it's just one sock, but I've put it on, and it seems to fit my foot really, really well. And it seems like on the previous sock that I had knit, it would kind of like slouch a little bit, and I think that with this, it's not going to slouch right at the back of the heel the way it was. So yeah, it's this rounded toe, and then I knit for a ways, and then I did the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then I just did a 2x2 rib for the whole leg. And because I was doing a 2x2 rib on this striped yarn, whenever the color change happened, I did just a row of knit instead of a row of knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, which, if you aren't familiar with yarn, this is the inside of the sock. And you can see how there's those different colored bumps that you can definitely see. Like, you can definitely see right in here that there's a little bit of a different colored, like, color jog. And so if you don't do that, you'll also, if you don't do a knit round and your color changes, you'll get that on the outside too. So I was doing that to avoid getting those on the outside, but where I was saying that these two grays are very, very similar, that made that very, very hard to do. And I did go ahead and do it. I thought about just being like, they're so similar, no one will notice, but I was pretty sure I would actually notice slightly, so I took a little bit of extra effort and found those changes and did that. So, and the thing that I think is kind of interesting is if you look kind of on the edge here, there's actually a little bit of like a scallop in, and then there's a little, this is the round where I did that just knits, and then a little scallop in, and this is the round where I did the just knits. And you won't notice it when you're wearing it, it stretches out just fine, but it's just kind of funny to me. I've never done it on something this gauge and size where I would see it, so. Anyway, so that's 1.5 socks that I did, which I am really loving. This will be my second pair of socks that I've knit for myself, and I've made some modifications to it with the tighter gauge and just a little bit smaller on the foot. And I don't know if I said that it was a 72 stitch around sock on the size 1s, so I'm going to wear that for a little while. I'm going to see if that's what I like, and I'm hoping that this will be essentially a formula that I really like the fit of, and that I can then put different patterns on, or if I don't want to do a pattern, I can just do another plain sock like this. So those are my socks. And then I got bored with just socks. So I had this really old, it's the, I don't have to introduce it too much. So this was the yarn, the Naturally Caring Spa yarn that I was using I was going to do the 2 at a time bed socks. If you remember, I was saying that I was going to rip them out and do them at a looser gauge. Because this is a bamboo nylon, not bamboo nylon, it's bamboo acrylic blend. Man, I can't talk. I did a gauge swatch at the looser gauge. I liked it better, but I still didn't like it. And so I ended up deciding, because of how much I liked those socks, and these socks I didn't like nearly as much, I kind of reevaluated whether I really wanted to do a sock with it. And I decided to do a cowl pattern that I found. And so, oh, I'm partway through a row. This will be interesting to show you. So this is it's the Winterberry cowl. Let me check who the designer is. The designer is Michelle Meadows. I have it on my computer over here. It's a free pattern that I got on Ravelry. And so let me make sure I'm showing you the front. So it's this little like ribbing with lace in it. So you've got like a lace and then a normal rib and then a lace and then a normal rib. It's very loose. This is being done on size 8 bamboo needles, and since they're bamboo, it's even looser because bamboo is stickier than metal, so I tend to work a little bit tighter on metal because I'm not wanting it to slide too much, whereas on bamboo I have to work even looser because if I don't work a little bit looser, it's way too tight. You can't move the stitches along because it's a little bit sticky. But, so this is what I've got so far. It's obviously quite a bit. It's going pretty quickly because it's, again, larger needles, so things go faster because each stitch is bigger. On here I've got this pink. This is a provisional cast on, and so at the end what you do is once you've knit the whole thing, and it's going to be, I want to say, about twice this long. Once you've knit the whole thing, you take this out and you put the two ends together, and then you you stitch them together, so you'll end up with I'm trying to show this a little bit. You'll end up with this like seamless edge where the lace runs into the lace and the rib runs into the rib and everything. And what I kind of really liked about this pattern was it's supposed to be big enough that you have, it's a loop, right, because it's a cowl, and then you kind of like loop it on itself and you wear it doubled up. And I really like the way the textures look together when you've got it kind of doubled on itself and a little bit of the back. The back isn't like bad or anything. It kind of just looks like a rib. And if you stretch it out, you can see that on some of these, you can see the back of the lace. But for the most part, the back just looks like a rib. So that is cool, and I'm pulling out yarn that I didn't mean to be pulling out. So that's one of my projects that I'm working on. It's nice. It's going a lot faster. It's a lot better fit for this yarn than the socks were. The only thing is, because this yarn is still so very loosely twisted, you can see that it's very easy to like separate it and pull it apart. So I have to be really careful as I'm knitting this that I don't do that, because then I'll have a loop of fabric, a loop of half of the yarn sticking out on the back or something, and that's just, that doesn't look good. So I have to be a little bit careful as I'm doing it, but other than that, it's a really nice, quick, fun pattern. I like it. And then the last thing that I've been working on is something that I've been working on for quite a while. It's my sweater for my dog that I'm using. I'm using the, it's called the Little Black Dress with Pearls pattern. It's a little like roughly bottomed dress-like sweater, and it's, you know, obviously you do it in black and you put like a string of pearls around the neck, and that's the Little Black Dress with Pearls, but I'm not doing it in black and I'm not putting pearls on it, so whatever. And I got it from a blog, My Savannah Cottage .wordpress.com. I found it through Ravelry, but that's the actual site that I got it from. And I'm doing this with the Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool that I dyed. I have a video, I want to say it's about my 4th video on this channel, showing how I dyed this kind of like pinky, purpley mottled yarn. It's a little bit more vibrant of a pink. This is a little bit of like a bluey purple, and it's more of a pinky purple, but it's not a bad color. Purple is hard to tell the color of. But anyway, so this is just the top. This is going to be like the top of her head's going to come out here, and her legs are going to come out like here, only this way, because it's going to be the top of her. So imagine that this is her head, and these are her legs. This is where it goes. So I'm just working down on that right now. And I'd commented in the video where I dyed this that I was originally intending, I wanted like a very smooth, not mottled fabric, but I'm actually liking the modeling on this quite a lot. So that is that, I think. Yeah, that's really all I've been working on. Knitting wise, I think that I want to get at least one of these projects done and off the needles. I think that I want to try to have like one easy project that I can do wherever that I don't have to pay much attention to. So the socks would be like that, the cowl would be like that because it's just a 4-row repeat, and as long as I know that, I'm good. With the socks, as long as I know where to stop so I can put the heel in, I'm good. I can just go forever on it, basically. So I want to have one of those because I like to take my knitting with me when I'm going to, like, when I'm going to be sitting on the bus for a while or when I'm going to be waiting somewhere. I like to have my knitting with me. And then I also want to have like a more complicated project. I don't currently have a complicated project. I wouldn't really call the dog sweater one that I could just take anywhere because there is like shaping that's happening. So I have to, you know, increase every 6 rows and then knit until it's this long and then do this. And so that's a little bit more complicated than I would want to just like throw in my bag and go with me. I could, but it's just probably a little bit more complicated than I would ideally want. But I'd like to have one like more complicated, like lace or cables or something fancy, just because I like doing the fancy stuff. And if I can have those 2 projects, so the easy one and the complicated one going, that'll give me a lot of stuff to switch back and forth, but I think that I'll be making more progress on them than I would if I just had like 5 or 6 projects going. Because with just those 3, the dog sweater was a relatively late addition to those. So for a while I had just the scarf, or the cowl, and the socks, and I was able to make a lot of progress on those by only having a very few things to work on. And so I kind of want to get my knitting down and kind of try to like consolidate it into just a couple projects. And then I don't have really any progress to show on my sewing or art stuff or other projects like that. I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed by the number of those that I have, which is unfortunate considering how many more that I want to start. So I'm thinking that I'm going to try to bring that down a little bit, like pick 1 or maybe 2 if I, sometimes I need to have like 2 to switch between, like pick 1 or 2 and try to focus only on those and get them done and get more of them out of there, because I would like to have my like 2 or 3 favorite cross-stitch patterns and everything else be done. So have a couple cross-stitch projects, have a couple knitting projects, and have a couple other things projects, so that way I'm consistently making progress on everything. And I don't have quite as many things as I do right now. So anyway, we will see how things go in future weeks. I'm sure that I'll have more knitting. I will undoubtedly have more cross-stitch than I do now, given that I'm going to have more frames and more variety of things that I can have ready to go whenever. And then hopefully I'll have more of my other stuff, because hopefully I'll be picking 1 or 2 and making significant progress on them that I can show you. So anyway, that's where I'm at. That's what's going on with me. I hope that your crafting is going well and that you're making progress and not feeling overwhelmed.